I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. And I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank you.
God bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Praise roll. Tell them on this roll. In the next. I'm trying to be careful. Tell them I believe. Tell them I'm crazy enough to believe that in the next 30 seconds, while we're giving God praise, that on this roll there shall be miracles, signs and wonders. Come on, claim your word, claim your word, claim your word. Claim your word. Claim your word.
Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have a very great episode for you today. And today we will be discussing the topic, a pastor's exit from Christianity. He experienced the great exodus. You thought Moses was the only one that did it. Our special guest is Bishop Jamal Broadnax. He is a facilitator of Unconditional Love and Tree of Life Center for Spiritual Enlightenment. Bishop, thank you so much for taking this opportunity to be on the show today.
You're welcome. And better known as the Consciousness Center, by the way. We kind of just edited that in a sense and began to call it the Consciousness Center.
Okay, that's awesome. And I think y'all doing a great work there, by the way, as well. Can you give us a little brief history? I know we're talking about your exit from Christianity, but can you give us a little brief history of who you are? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and so forth.
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. So, yeah, I'm Jamal, B Jamal Broadnax, and I was born in Reidsville, North Carolina, a little small town in North Carolina, and been in Greensboro for the past 30 years in April. And I was raised by my grandmother and my mother, but I lived with have a great mother. Yeah, so had a great mother, but I was raised by my grandmother. I lived with her, and she taught me love. She showed me love. My upbringing, as you asked, basically, my upbringing was just, we lived in the country. So I was hauling wood from the wood pile to the house, mowing the grass. Fortunately, unlike this 21st century generation of young people, we played outside because everybody lived like across the street from each other, the whole family. So, I grew up around a bunch of cousins and I had a great life. Fortunately, my grandmother showed me how to love. Mm-hmm. That was a loving woman. If God is anything, and if, as Christianity says, God is love, mm-hmm. My grandmother showed me God.
That's awesome. Is she still living?
Oh, no. All of my grandparents are gone. I'm almost 50 years old. So, my grandparents are going on.
You don't look 50.
I appreciate that, sir.
So you were heavily involved in ministry. What kind of ministry was that? What did you do? And second part of that question is, what motivated you to even participate in ministry?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Henry, and I'm glad you asked. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to even take time to explore that mentally. Because in hindsight, as I look back, about what motivated me to get in ministry, in hindsight, it was really my social conditioning that motivated me. Back at that time, I would have said, well, God called me.
Exactly.
That's what I felt. I felt like it was a God calling. And in a sense, maybe it was, but it was a calling that came within. But even my inner calling, I think it came from my social conditioning. So just kind of think about it. If you're growing up and the entire time you've got all the little church mothers and everybody in your family saying, oh, something special about that little boy.
I had the same
He's going to be
thing
a
happen to
preacher.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be a preacher. So now, bringing in what I've learned as a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner, what I've learned about the subconscious now, I understand that, all of that was subconsciously implanted into me. So, of course, now I've got this inner desire, and this inner calling within me that says, hey, I'm supposed to be a preacher.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened. As far as what kind of ministry, how involved I was, I should say, in ministry, man, I was heavily involved. I was sold out. You hear me? I was sold out. Had a great ministry. Never was like a mega church. That was my desire at one point, because that was everybody's desire. But I did grow two churches I grew one over 200 from 35 people when they sent me there back in 1999. I grew that church to about 200 people. And then I started my own church in 2005. I grew that from 0 to about 150 to almost 200 people. So I had a very successful ministry life.
Oh, that's amazing. So, do you have any regrets leaving Christianity? No. Tell us why, because you're one of many who have exited Christianity. And most people I've talked to say, oh, no, I have no regrets at all. It's the best decision I've ever made.
Absolutely no regrets, brother. I tell you, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, kudos to whoever loves Jesus. I have an affinity. I have a love for Jesus. Okay. I do have a love for the Jesus story, or the Jesus narrative, or the concept of Jesus Christ consciousness. I have a love for that. But no offense, but I used to sing the song, Jesus is the best thing. Now, this is literal, right? You probably heard the song. You probably heard me at the center.
Yeah.
I used to sing the song, and it was my favorite. Jesus is the best thing that ever happened to me. So I took that song and I changed the words, and I said, finding me was the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's what happened when I walked away from Christianity. I found me. I have no regrets, Brother Henry. None whatsoever.
That's awesome. And Christianity, we hear a lot of people say that's a man-made construct. Is that something you agree with?
I definitely agree with that. It is a man-made construct. I mean, so is every religion. Every religion started with a man. I mean, let's just be honest about it. Every sacred book was written by a man. I think at some point, which is what I guess one of the things that kind of assisted in my deconstruction from religion, that was being able to finally acknowledge. I mean, it's common sense. I think every human being knows it. Every Christian knows it. But finally being able to acknowledge that even my book was written by men. Okay. Every sacred book was written by a man. No God wrote any book. So yes, it is a human construct. Absolutely.
You decided to leave or exit Christianity. What made you do that? A lot of people, one thing I don't like when people say, oh, he must be hurt.
Yeah.
Why does he still call himself Bishop? Those are very insensitive things to say to someone. It's like, well, why do you call yourself? See, I'm different. I would say, why you call yourself such and such? What? A lot like we said, there's no monopoly on such and such. I think your explanation was you do that to draw people in. Like, oh, this ain't the type of bishop.
That's one of the reasons.
This ain't the type of bishop I thought. And through that, it produces liberty in people's lives.
Yeah.
Like I like that was my impression when I first met you. And I'm still involved in church from time to time. I'm a pianist, so I play and
Yeah.
stuff. There's a lot of it I just don't agree with or subscribe to.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with my upbringing too.
Mhm.
Was there a certain event or something that happened that made you like, had those question marks going on in your mind about, Christianity?
Yeah, absolutely. There definitely
I'm sure there are a
was.
number of things.
Yeah. You see where I'm going. There definitely was a number of things, but there was one most significant event, absolutely, that really kind of pushed me and began my descent down the rabbit hole, okay, if you will. And the thing that really did it for me was, I would say back in, I'm going to say maybe 2007 or so, Bishop Carlton Pearson. Bishop Carlton Pearson did, and I know he's been on your show.
Yeah.
Bishop Pearson did a phone interview. I don't know if you recall, well, I'm sure you do. Back at that time, the way that Pearson's journey began, he came out with the gospel of inclusion. In this gospel of inclusion, Bishop basically was saying everybody's saved, but they just don't know it. You know, so so he came on a local talk show here, and I called in. I called in to argue and debate Carlton Pearson. I didn't call to learn anything. Okay, I said I got him now.
Yeah.
So this is how it really started. This is back in 2007, and I didn't officially leave Christianity officially until about 4 years ago, and this is 2023. But Bishop Pearson was on the talk show, and I called in and I asked him a question. I said, Bishop, if everybody's saved, then who's going to hell?
Yeah.
He responded back to me. He said, whoever Jesus did not die for.
Ooh.
Whoa. Whoa. That was my
no comeback for that.
Man, yeah, that was my, as Oprah would say, that was my aha moment. Although I did not leave Christianity, that did what we talk about in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. We talk about, in order to bring behavior change, there has to be an interrupt in your inner strategies and patterns. That statement from Bishop Pearson. Ooh, I can't get it out. That statement from Bishop Pearson interrupted my inner patterns and strategies. I never forgot that. That stuck with me. And it was right after that, even though it was back in 2007, and I didn't leave until 4 years ago. It was right after that, I started to become Bishop Pearson's Nicodemus. One day I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to tell him that he helped me deconstruct. So I began to go to his website. We didn't have video at that time. I would listen to the different audios and listen to the different things that he was saying. So I became a Nick at Night fan of Bishop Pearson. So I listened, and then progressively along the way, I just deconstructed, peeling off the layers until eventually there was nothing less. It's like eventually, Henry, it led to me having an open mind. That's really what it did.
Yeah.
And I began to do my own research. And as I began to do my own research, let me say this. One thing that I don't think people understand, for most of us that deconstruct from Christianity or any religion, we don't go into this expecting to deconstruct. I didn't. I began to dig deeper into the Bible because I wanted to know more about the God that I served. I wanted to know more about the Jesus that I loved. You understand? But it led me into a deeper study of the Bible. And because of what happened back in 2007, I was open. So probably about 4 years ago, I began to really start reading the Bible, not with a confirmation bias.
Yeah.
But I started to read the Bible to really see what it said. And when I started reading the Bible to really see what it said, I began to see some things I'd never seen before. And in a sense, it was the Bible that led me away from the Bible. Just being honest with you.
That makes a lot. It makes a lot of
with
sense. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And let me say this, Henry, I have no problems with the Bible. I respect those that still use it as the blueprint for their life. I'm okay with that. I think the Bible is a great work of literature when it's viewed. The Bible is a great work of literature when it's viewed with a proper perspective.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story, by the way, and I think that's awesome. So many people, when they were involved in Christianity and they exit, most of the time they hold on to something that they've learned. Was there anything in Christianity that you took away from, or that you found valuable, or did you just let it all go?
I think that's a great question, Brother Henry. I almost let it all go. I can almost say that I almost let it just simply all go. And as time goes on, I am still peeling off layers of that culture, let me call it that, and starting to really let it all go. But I think that the thing that I held on to for a long time, and probably still do, is the concept of unconditional love. However, you don't need religion for that.
Yeah.
That's something I believe it's in the heart of every man to desire to love. But that's probably the only thing that I held on to. Just to be honest, some of the culture of our center, it may still look a little church-like. So maybe I can say we held on to some of those elements as far as the singing and speaking and stuff like that.
When I watch your meetings, I don't see it as much as worshiping God.
Right.
I think it's beautiful because it's different. It's very. I don't see it as churchy. I see it more as a celebration of oneself.
Oh, brother, you hit the nail on the head.
That's just the way I see it. And
yes, sir. Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's when I watch your consciousness. And the songs that y'all sing, I always give what's his name? Frederick. He comes over and speaks sometimes. Stuff like that. He's a great speaker, but sometimes I be saying that Zion is calling us to a higher place. All that stuff. And I like how y'all change the words up, and because a lot of the songs, you talked a little bit about this earlier. A lot of it is dehumanization. I feel like it's dehumanizing, like suppress yourself, deny yourself, forget who you are. It's like, and you give all this to someone else, and you don't even know who you are. So it makes a whole lot of sense when you say finding yourself, because you can't find yourself if you've given everything to a deity or to somebody out there, so to speak. So, but like I said, that's my approach and my evaluation from watching your center. I try to watch every Sunday.
Oh, good.
Y'all do. Like I said earlier, y'all doing an amazing work down there. So
that means a lot. Thank you, Henry.
There are many. Well, you're welcome. Many people leave Christianity, and oftentimes it's replaced with something else. Tell us. Can you tell us today, where are you today? Was it replaced with something else? If not, what do you consider yourself? Because we live in a society now where you have to be something. And I think you made it very clear that you're just going to be.
You got it.
Like I'm not doing church no more. I'm not doing X, Y, and Z. So where are you today? I don't want to say spiritually, but just where are you today in that area?
You got it, man. I think I can answer because you asked two questions and they both go together. They pretty much have the same answer. But I want to go back to the first thing you said. Many people, when they come out of Christianity, they replace it with something. I did. I replaced Christianity with myself. Okay. I replaced it with me. I fell in love with me. I stopped denying myself
Mhm.
because really, and this also explains where I am, what this journey has been all about for me, Henry. It's been about a journey back to self.
Mhm.
It's almost the prodigal son story in action in my life.
Mhm.
That's why I say I still value the Bible when it's viewed in this proper perspective, because I think the one good way you can use the Bible is just to see yourself in it. Stop
Mhm.
trying to see the characters that in all reality, we have no archaeological evidence that they existed. Just to be honest.
And they worship those people too. Paul said
Yeah.
this, Timothy said that. What about what you
Exactly.
say?
What do you say? Because a lot of Christians don't even base their theology or their belief system on Christ,
Mhm.
who is supposed to be the main character, but
Yeah.
they base it on Paul. Okay, Paul, who
said,
never met Jesus, who
yeah,
never saw Jesus. He only claimed to see the resurrected Jesus, according to the narrative.
Mhm.
So Paul only claimed to see a ghost, so to speak. You understand?
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
spirit. But they base their most, I don't like to use generalizations and say they, but a lot of Christians base their faith and their belief system and their doctrine on Paul and not on Jesus. Because if you look closely, what Paul says differs a lot from what Jesus said.
Mhm.
Even Paul himself, so you got me preaching, Henry.
No, you're good.
even Paul himself said, my gospel.
Yeah.
And Paul said, this is my gospel. And watch this, Paul says, if any man comes to you with any other gospel besides my gospel,
Mhm.
do not believe him and let him be accursed. Then he takes a step further and says, even if an angel from heaven, wait a doggone minute.
Wow.
He said, even if an angel from heaven comes and brings you another message that's different than my gospel, don't receive him. So anyway, what was I getting to here?
No, you're right, because I've seen a lot of that too. When I read it from time to time, it'll say the gospel according to Mark,
Yeah.
or according to this person or that person.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So basically, I think I was just basically saying, I was talking about the stories, how I don't think that the Bible is a bad thing when it's viewed properly in its proper perspective, when you can put yourself in the place of these characters. So basically, I am that prodigal son. Okay. I left myself, but I found me. I came home to myself. Because if you look at that story, the key life altering thing that happened to that prodigal son, if you look at the story, before he returned home, it says he came to himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me. I came back to me. I came to myself. I found me, and I found out that I am not a filthy rag. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's like in religion, I felt like I didn't have a chance. Even when I got saved, I'm still just a sinner saved by grace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was born, I didn't have a chance. Born in iniquity, shaped in sin. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a chance according to most of the Christian doctrine. Not all. Everyone does not, accept that. But I thought about it, according to the narrative, if I'm made in the image of God, then I'm like God anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
if God is perfect, doggone it, so am I. I am perfectly me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
You can call that imperfect, but I call it perfectly me.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking a lot here, but where I am now, you said basically I am just at the place where I can just be.
Yeah.
If I had to give a 2-word answer, a simple answer, where am I now? I am. Is my answer. Wow. That may sound strange to some people, but Jesus said it. He said, before Abraham was, I am. Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically, I'm just beyond labels now. It's not even necessarily that I don't believe in God, so to speak. I just don't. I know that there's something, but I don't call it God. Yeah. I have a conscious awareness that there is something, but I'm not going to call it God just because some dead man, and I hope that doesn't sound derogatory to the Bible, but I'm not going to call it God just because some dead man, some ancient writer put it in a book and said that it's God. I'm not going to call it God just because it's written in the book. No, I know there's something, but whatever this is, if you want to call it God, it's too vast to put in a box called the Bible. It's too vast to put in a box called Christianity. It's too vast to put in a box called Islam. It's too vast to put in a box called Hinduism. Okay. Whatever this is, it's too vast to put in a box called consciousness, a box called being woke. It's too much. Whatever this is, whatever it is that coordinates this universe, whatever it is, Henry, that coordinates this universe and keeps things together. Here's what I believe and what I've come to find out personally for me, what it appears anyway, whatever this is that coordinates the universe, it's around us, it's through us, it's in us, and it's as us.
That's powerful. What's your what's your thoughts on people who perceive your freedom as a threat, specifically on Facebook?
Well, I really can't say my thoughts. You might, it might get your video censored. You probably understand.
I understand because you seem so, and it leads to my last question, by the way. Were you truly happy when you were involved in ministry? So I think that kind of goes together. Because a lot of people say he's a bishop, he does this, and I ain't gonna say it, but they say you do this, you do that, you do this.
Oh, go ahead and say it. I'm the cussing bishop. That's
the cussing bishop. Yeah, yeah, and I see that more like you, and I even I acknowledge you publicly and tag you.
You have.
I said people can say whatever they want about Bishop Broadnax. You know, he's the realest guy I know.
Oh, bless you, man.
And maybe that's the issue with Christianity is people have had this facade for so long. They're not really happy. They don't even really want to be doing ministry and what they're doing.
Yeah,
that leads to the last question. When you were in ministry for 20 plus years, were you really happy? In it?
I can answer that question, but if you don't mind, I also like to answer your previous question.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll make it very short. You know, what do I say to those people? Well, see, I understand, having studied the subconscious, I do understand that that's a projection. That's all it is. Those people, it's a outward projection of what's going on inner. There's an insecurity in these people, and my freedom, my boldness, my comfort with my freedom, my comfort with me, it projects their own inner insecurity. So they don't know how to handle that. So all they can do is attack and lash out because they don't know how to handle those inner demons in which they need to address and do the shadow work. Okay. Because my freedom shines a light on their bondage. That's really what's happening. Okay. Now, all right. So I'll answer the question. the last question. Was I really happy? Well, Henry, I'm not going to say I was happy, but I had what my social conditioning said was happiness, because my social conditioning at the time basically said happiness is just knowing Jesus. Yeah, that's happiness. So in that regard, I had what my social conditioning interpreted as happiness, because it was gain the world, give me Jesus. You can have money, fortune, and fame, but I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold and all that kind of stuff. Oh, but now I want the gold. Give me the silver, give me the gold. Now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I had that, and I interpreted it as happiness. But in hindsight, I hate to believe that I wasn't happy, but in hindsight, I don't think I really was. But because now, finding myself, I realize what happiness really is. Yeah. And I can truly say I have no regret.
That's amazing. What's your message to pastors or people out there that want to make that exit, but at the same time, they have bills to pay. They have and there's a lot that comes with ministry. Most of them get salaries and stuff like that. It's like, but internally they really do want to, make the great exit, as I prefer to. Like, what could you say would be a starting point for somebody? And let's be honest, I think we've all have at least thought about it. What would it be like to not be a part of all this at all?
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody that's watching right now that may be on the verge of but they're scared too?
First thing I would say is I understand, because so was I.
Because some people lose friendships over, they lose relationships. I know I did.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reality of it. And I would definitely point out those realities. There is a lot of,
I said great loss.
Yeah, great loss. There's a lot at stake. I will be honest with you. There's an income at stake. There's relationships, and I experienced it. But what I can tell you is just take your time. Take your time, and at your own pace. At your own pace, you will. I'm not going to say you will awaken, because a lot of these people already have, because they are in my inbox, my messenger on Facebook all the time, Brother Henry. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about pastors, with some of them well known, honestly. Some of them, I had a bishop recently reach out a few months ago, has a very large congregation, mega church. He reached out to me about what his dissonance, his cognitive dissonance that he's been experiencing,
mm-hmm.
So it's happening. I will tell you that, but you just have to do it. At some point, you can no longer deny yourself. And at some point, you've got to do what that prodigal son did and come back. What did it say? He came to himself,
mm-hmm.
and then you're going to have to come home to you. I promise you won't regret it.
That's powerful. Thank you so much, Bishop Broadnax, for being on the show today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And what you're doing down there is a great work. Keep up the good work. And I appreciate who you are, your friendship, and I value you as well. Your authenticity. I think the world needs it, and hopefully, today's episode will spark thought and interest, provoke thought for people to ask questions. For many of us have been trained. I know I have. You don't question God. You don't ask most people don't even talk about stuff like this. You just program, as you said earlier, not to do that. For more information about Bishop Jamal Broadnax, I believe you can contact him on Facebook, correct?
Yes, you can reach me on Facebook. I think the Facebook page is B Jamal Broadnax, and that's B Jamal Broadnax, Broadnax. So you can reach me there. Also, I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that.
Okay, go right ahead.
Oh no! Oh, you can go ahead and say it.
Okay. Yep. I also have a YouTube channel that I just started, by the way. So there's only like one video on there, but I would appreciate you if you want to know more about me, and if you want to hear. We didn't have a lot of time here. It would take me hours to really get into this story. But if you want to learn more about me and hear some from other people that have experienced what I've experienced, you can go to the Unbelieving Bishop, and just go to YouTube and search for the Unbelieving Bishop, and please subscribe and follow me. I look forward to hearing from you.
Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God bless
you.
you too. Thank you for having us.